I promise I'm comfy on this beanbag chair. So a lot of interest was expressed in the last video of my camera choice. There was a lot of comments about it, and also from friends and family that I showed the video. A lot of people were asking about it. So I thought I would let you in on what I use, which is what I'm currently using. But to show that camera, I'm going to have to use other cameras. So whatever camera I'm using is going to be in the corner of the screen. I haven't decided which one yet. We'll fake whichever one looks best. I have a couple of cameras. Like I've got more than just this one. So you'll see that throughout the video. But this main camera that I use nowadays is a 1999 broadcast camera, originally costing a whopping $4,635. It is no longer $1999 though, so adjusted for inflation in 2026, it's over $9,000, sitting in at $9,048.88. This is a lot of money that I do not have, so we're going to talk about how much I paid for it later. But this is in fact the JVC GY-500 Mini DV broadcast camera. These are not ducks. These are just buoys. Okay, live studio audience. Anyway, I'm going to make Arrows Cone Polo today. I know that's not how you say it. I've got my recipe printed off. I made it like 4 times recently, but it's really tasty. By the way, the camera's pointing at you, Jimmy.
No, it's not.
First a million miles of fun. I know it's up for me if you steal my sunshine. This beast of a camera records at slightly larger than 480p. It's like a weird number. It has 494 pixels of height, which is enough for cropping, but it has 768 horizontal pixels, which is like way more than it's supposed to have, because typical 480p is only 640 across. So I'm dealing with like a slightly wider image, and with that we're capturing a staggering 380,000 pixels in full color. Pretty rad. Despite this low pixel count to today's standards, with 1080p having about 7 times more pixels and then 4K having about 4 times that, one thing that you cannot deny is that this thing's zooming capabilities are nothing to sneeze at. It has a full, large, broadcast quality optical zoom that is crisp as hell, and it's magnificent. It feels so good to use. This thing is older than I am. I was born only a year later, but this thing's quite old, and it still works really well for its age. I bought it off of Facebook Marketplace from a kind gentleman, and he clearly loved and respected his tools. He had like an example video in the post. He had a whole lot of pictures of it, and it was truly a nice time to like when I went and picked it up. I paid a measly $150 for it, and not only came with the camera, but it also had 2 XLR cables, a carrying case that was used and worn, a manual, a tripod speed plate adapter, and an AC to DC wall power source, and it was well worth the drive to New Jersey. I've since spent a little over the same $150 to get different bits and bobs to make this the perfect video camera. I got a battery so that I could untether myself from the wall and the snaking cables and whatnot. I got an S-video input thing, so I've got the S-video right here. And it allows me to record it onto just a USB drive, which I also got a specific one for this so that I wouldn't lose it. And this just makes it so that I can actually record off of it instead of having to find a FireWire input somewhere and like build it into my computer, which wasn't really a thing that I could really do, especially with how it's just very complicated nowadays. This is actually meant for like converting VHS tapes to USB or onto digital, but it works really well because it's just USB powered and I can plug it straight into the battery. And then also I got a couple cables and whatnot. I also have this light if I want to put on it. I got it for Christmas. It was kind of rad. It's quite, it's very bright, and you can change the brightness of it, and you can also change the warmth in different ways. It's kind of rad. I haven't used it much yet because I don't really need a lot of lighting, especially down here in the basement, because I've got these giant lights above me. And then something that I already had is I have the Rode Wireless Go 2, which gets involved there, here and there. So I've got one receiver and then 2 transmitters. Very cool, very rad. At Goodwill, I found a very swag metal tripod that could actually hold up the camera. It is 10 pounds. Have I mentioned that yet? But despite this weight, testing some of my cheaper tripods, it feels rather effortless to throw on your shoulder. I'm not very good at it, but you totally can. And clipping it onto the speed plate is satisfying when you actually get it without a fuss. It has this awesome, intoxicating click once it's seated. And taking it out is just as electric, to be honest. Part of the reason I love this camera is that it's made for broadcasting on TV, meaning it has a lot of buttons and dials and switches that helps you set up things quickly and repeatedly. My favorite ones, of course, being up in the front. There's a auto white balance thing. You just click it, you move it upwards, and it just corrects its lighting. Very rad. And it also has some ISO stuff up in the front. There's a little knob. And then, of course, this beautiful forward back for the zoom. It handles very well. You've also got things like the black and white viewfinder. It's just very fun. And it also makes lots of noises because it wants to record a tape. So it's just very fun to use. So many, in fact, actually, that one of them is called Low Lux. And I didn't know what Low Lux was, so I just ignored it entirely. Apparently, Low Lux, you turn it on, and then it stops looking bad. Before this, a lot of the footage that I'm going to use from, as I've been using it, a number of it is from before I figured out what Low Lux did. And I'll be honest, it's a night and day difference. It's very scratchy is my word that I use. It's very scratchy when Low Lux is off, especially in the darker areas. Well, once Low Lux is on, it's able to really adjust to the lighting a lot better, and it loses that scratchy quality. All right, so my rig currently, let's put it together here. I've got my tripod and speed plate behind me. Those can do their own thing because sometimes I don't use them. But here's my camera. It's got the base on. I can take my battery and clip it into the back, just like so. Boom, clicked in. Then we've got this bad boy, goes into this little phone mount. It goes in kind of specifically. I'm going to stand up a little bit because I got to line it up in the right spot so I can actually access all of the right things. So I need to be able to plug in. Where is it? There it is. I'll be able to plug in my S-Video, which goes right here. If I can line it up. Boom. That goes there. This goes in the back for recording. I've got to hook up the audio aux in over here. And then ready for this is a twist of fate here. Ready? My receiver here, if I line it up perfectly, can clip in right there. And boom. Look at that. Look how beautiful that is. I would usually take one of these, clip it to the front, or I clip it to myself, though I don't really like that. And then the USB for this just gets plugged into the battery. And then, in theory, this screen might light up in a second. Hey, no, it didn't. Why aren't you lighting up? What if I click it again? No, it's just not powering on. Wow. Hilarious. Oh, duh. I have to plug it in first. Power goes there. And now, it lights up and it's good. But yeah, this is what it all looks like. Right, I have the option to take this light that I have and put it on the front, slide it on with the same adapter that they've used for apparently at least a couple decades, because this is for now from 1999. And then I can have the light up here. It has its own power source, and it can light up a room or whatever. The one thing that I would probably change is getting rather than the current audio setup that I have, I would get a shotgun mic that I can put up here. That way I don't have to worry about the sound quality from my wireless mics being kind of bad when I'm not close enough to them. And I just don't like wearing mics. It's just not something I like doing. So something I might change in the future. But otherwise, it's perfect. Before this, way back when I used my $400 laptop from 2016 that didn't really last more than a couple seconds without being plugged in, I borrowed my mom's Sony Handycam for use as webcam when hanging out with friends online. We had no webcams in the house, and I had very little money, but I knew my mom had cameras because she liked it as a hobby, and she had a nice one for taking pictures, and we also had at least this one for taking little videos and stuff that we didn't use very often. So I know I could snag it or at least borrow it for a little bit. And lo and behold, I still have it. I used like $7, a little bit of my money, to grab the cheapest adapter I could find for getting USB out of it. And then later, when I got tired of charging batteries and stuff, I bought a wall brick that was also pretty cheap, like $15-20. I probably should have just bought a webcam, but it was fun to have a real camera as my webcam because none of my friends had that, and it was fun to do. And also, I had this goofy digital zoom that I could use, which was really fun. So I could let's see, zoom way in. Whoa, look out. I hate that. Wow, you can really tell that I haven't shaved today. But, right. Oh, no, that's too far in. Whoa, we're getting a little too up close and personal with me. But it was kind of fun to do. And also it has a screen on it so I can look at it and it looks okay. But it was fun to do. A little fun fact, the profile picture that I use everywhere that on my computer is just labeled as Simi Groove. That was from me being in call with a friend and me doing a little jig. And he took a screenshot of just my webcam because it was funny. And that became my profile picture everywhere. But that's how old this is, from 2019. It's pretty crazy. I forgot when I used to look this crisp. Besides my mom liking cameras, her dad, my grandpa Bob, who I just kind of called Bob. I lived with him for a bit. It was kind of silly. Don't worry about it. But Bob also loved taking pictures and having lots of cameras and stuff. He had lots of interests. He liked leatherworking and printers and who knows what. That's why I have an $800 printer over here. But Bob liked cameras, and so he liked taking pictures with them and using them. And so I learned a little bit from him as well. And in 2022, when he passed away, I inherited 2 of his cameras. And one of them became my default webcam. It was way crisper, way nicer. And the only issue was that I had to jailbreak it. So it only lasts, Holt stays on for 30 minutes. And then I jailbroke it with custom firmware, but it only extends that time to 3 hours, which seems like a lot. But when you're in call with friends gaming and stuff, 3 hours is nothing. So after 3 hours, you have to turn it back on. And if it's overheated, it just doesn't work. Very silly. And I'm pretty sure another problem with it is that there's a slight desync between the audio in it. There's a slight amount of desync, and it's going to be mess when I'm editing this. Because normally I would prep it in OBS, but I haven't used this camera in so long that I've forgotten. Oh no, this is going to be a nightmare. As I moved around in my early 20s though, I kept setting it up as my webcam, but using it very little. Because I wasn't staying up as late in those gaming calls, and when I wasn't really turning on my camera. I was moving around a lot, so my background was always all over the place, and I looked kind of silly. And then also, I wasn't in Zoom college anymore. I'd graduated, and I was moving into trying to have a job and stuff, and so as I wasn't really needing it as much. So I instead switched to a slightly different thing that I inherited from Bob. I reset myself back down to this god-awful, comically bad USB webcam that was just in a box somewhere in Bob's condo. It shoots in stuttery, washed-out 480p. And I've loved, CRTs, cassette tapes, this retro aesthetic, really anything with physical buttons and stuff. This barely counts, but it still feels just old enough that I can not care about it. And it's really cemented itself as my outward going aesthetic, the camera obviously, but then also the TV that I like to show stuff on is this old projector TV that's I got for free. It's really rad. I like it a lot. I'm sure I'll talk about it at some point, but I like this style, and this kind of cemented it for me. And when I saw the listing go up on Facebook Marketplace for the camera, and it showed up again and again, I kind of had to commit to it. It was vibey. It was old. It was goofy. It was the most absurd bit I could possibly do. And it really helped me start making things again. In the blurry lines and goofy lighting behind every shot with this camera from 1999, I never really worry besides just making sure whatever I'm filming is in the shot. Because as long as it feels right, the quality doesn't really matter anyway. I'm still trying to improve, but I'm able to give myself a lot more leeway, and my mistakes kind of just blur into the background. The paralysis of making good content like I had wanted to for years, my ever-rising internal quality bar outpacing my own growth, collapsed in an instant with the first shot. Thank you all for watching my goofy little video. And here's to many more.